Story one is a strange twist at the LA Marathon has people talking. The LA Marathon awards finisher medals to those who complete 18 miles of the 26.2-mile course. So basically, the LA Marathon happened last weekend. The weather forecast for that day was warmer than a typical LA Marathon, reaching a high of 87 or 88 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. The average for this time of year on that day is around 69 degrees. So nearly 20 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius hotter than usual. The marathon website said what to expect on race day. Sunday is shaping up to be a warm, sunny day across the Los Angeles Marathon course from Dodger Stadium to Century City. While it's slightly warmer than a typical LA Marathon race day, with the right preparation, you can have an amazing day out there. Further down the website, there's a header that says having a tough day, and then goes on to say, if you're having a tough day and want to end your race before the 26.2 miles, you can choose to take the turn at mile 18 and head to the finish line early. You do not need to notify anyone of your decision, and you can opt to take this route at any time. This option is available for this year only. It then goes on with some directional instructions and signage to look for, and then says at the end, you will receive your finisher medal and any challenger medal you've earned, and your official race results will be updated at a later date to reflect your time and mileage. There is no shame in making a smart decision for your body. Props to the LA Marathon for giving people options on what is always a tough day. I think when you're running a marathon, it's going to be a tough day. It's a really hard slog, not something everyone does. But clearly, they are raising awareness of the warm temperatures and encouraging people to make a smart decision for their body. As you can imagine, this has led to mixed reviews online, and there have been a slew of negative comments. The New York Post said marathon quitters don't deserve medals, and other news sources have said it's snowflake culture run amok, called pathetic by fans, and online influencers have said people should be ashamed of themselves, which is quite vitriolic for what is basically a voluntary participation event. But of course, everyone has an opinion on that. Clearly, from our perspective, through our lens in the climate and sustainability space, it was an operational decision to ensure people stayed safe and completed a course and received they received a medal, they received what they were looking for completing an arduous challenge. And 18 miles in 30 degrees is nothing to be sniffed at as well. That would be my opinion. But also, of course, it isn't the 26.2 miles. That is your marathon length. So what are we thinking about when it comes to this? It's another reminder that climate change is making normal race conditions less predictable. Events designed around historical weather patterns at certain times of year are now continuing to encounter new extremes. The temperature reached 31 degrees or 87 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 Celsius, and the historic average is around 20 degrees or 69 degrees Fahrenheit. So more than 10 degrees Celsius above the seasonal average. Organisers are increasingly being forced to adapt the events around historical weather patterns to a climate that no longer behaves predictably. As extreme events become more common, obviously organisers of endurance sports are going to have to rethink what a safe participation looks like. We've already seen things like earlier start times, we've seen more hydration stations, shaded recovery areas, and now we're seeing contingency routes, the LA Marathon giving a mile 18 finish. The backlash, I think, highlights something we need to consider in the world of climate sustainability and sport. It reminds us that there's going to be a cultural divide around climate adaptation. Practical safety measures are reframed as weakness rather than preparation for the changing environmental conditions. And that's something I think we need to reflect on. I've been thinking, is there something in the language that could help us? This idea of having a tough day as the framing, but acknowledging what the LA Marathon will have been dealing with operationally around this decision, trying to ensure the safety of participants, trying to give people a medal after they've been training probably for a year for this day and then encountering really extreme conditions. Props to the LA Marathon for putting something in place that keeps people safe. And I don't envy their decision making here. They don't want to be alarming by saying the heat's going to be extreme, but they want people to have the option. The pylon of negative press, I think, is begins to stem from this having a tough day framing, which is, as I mentioned, a framing of weakness. Every marathon day is going to be a tough day if you're not Eliud Kipchoge. Not to say that people wouldn't already say something about this and media outlets wouldn't cover it in this way, even if it wasn't framed in this way. But I wonder if we can reflect on other ways that that could have been said. Could the outcomes have been different? This obviously has to position the decision on personal judgment, making sure people understand it's not an unsafe race environment, which obviously is an important legal distinction. But I haven't come up with anything amazing, to be honest, thinking about adjusting to race day conditions, for example, more neutral language. However, implies there that the race day conditions are hostile or more difficult. And again, organisers need to be very careful around this. I think the language used by organisers of listening to your body or finishing early if they're having a tough day reflects how endurance events are having to increasingly manage heat risk. Behind this phrasing is the practical reality that race directors must balance participant safety, legal liability, and the growing challenge of hotter race day conditions. If you've got ideas on another way that this could have been phrased, that is around climate adaptation, but also taking care of yourself, but maybe in a way that wouldn't have encouraged a lot of media to pile in, calling people weak and pathetic. I would love to hear about it. I think this is the ongoing challenge of communications around sustainability in sport when we're having these sorts of issues. So, it's a small and telling example of how sporting events are beginning to adapt to the heat risk in Los Angeles. And this is, of course, increasingly relevant as the city prepares to host the 2028 Summer Olympics. This already happening in March. What are we going to be experiencing in June and July in a few years' time? And of course, the US is preparing for the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup, which brings us on to story two.